Hey, She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. And today we are jumping into a topic that is discussed too much and not enough. We are talking about quantum leaps today and what they mean for us personally, what they mean for us in our business growth, and I love to put my little spin on things. The vulnerable things that people don't often share. A lot of times we hear about the glamorous parts of the quantum leaps, but we don't hear about the messy middle. And lucky for you, I am in the messy middle. So you are going to get all of the raw vulnerability and my takeaways from some of the biggest, like one of the biggest quantum leaps I've had in my life in the last 6 months. But before we jump into that, I do have a couple just like updates for you. This is a solo. So this is like my goal for the year was to do a solo every month. And the goal with the solos are to try and keep them to a half hour or less. We'll see. I don't know. The number of stages I have been like kicked off of, not like literally, but like they're like, your time is over. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm just getting going. So we're going to do our best. All right. If you are following in the gram, there's two main things going on. One is that you're probably starting to notice um, beyond brick and mortar. So there's some things changing around, and it actually kind of goes with the quantum leap. You're going to get more of the behind the scenes. But basically we are because of trademark issues, we are moving beyond brick and mortar, our membership into the Uncharted Collective. Get it? Chart, like health, you're charting. Get it? Uncharted. I feel like it's a joke, or if you have to explain, is it really funny? But I don't know. Hopefully you got it right away. The other, let's see. So we have that's going on. We have a workshop coming up. So make sure that you click the link if you are listening to this right away, because the workshop is June 16th. But there are replays, so you can sign up all the way through the 18th at 8 p.m. and get the whole workshop sent to you. Other thing is like I'm experimenting with foot levelers orthotics lately. I haven't gotten them yet. I just went and got fitted for them. So I don't know if you guys remember, like if any of you guys have done orthotics before. I had done orthotics a little bit in the beginning, right out of school. And they were like, you stepped into this insert. And I never trusted that like I was doing it right as the provider. So I really didn't take off with it because I was like, I don't know. What if they stepped in wrong? It just stressed me out. Well, now that I'm like 38-ish, I actually had to do math the other day. And I was very disappointed to find out that I will be turning, in fact, 39 this fall and not 38 like I thought I was. Apparently, I already turned 38. These are things that happened as we get older. But I just have started to notice that, like, all right, I'm doing the weighted walking and my feet started hurting. But then, like, it wouldn't always be the same part of the foot. And then it'd be the knee. And like, I'm foam rolling, I'm taking collagen, I'm stretching, I'm strength training, I'm doing a lot of things very, very right. And it just seemed like as I started to pick up new sports, whether I was learning how to, what's it called? It's not the Running Man. Oh gosh, it's gonna kill me now to remember. But it's like jump step. It's really cool. It's really cool. The kids on TikTok are doing it. And I was like starting to do that. And then my knees are starting to hurt. So I asked people, like, all right, what can I do? And one of the number one responses I had gotten was orthotics. And I was like, oh, I'm at that point in life. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with age, but it felt like that. So I got them scanned. I had to go to a neighboring city because they now have this like really fancy scanning software that they've leveled up. Let's just say they have leveled up. I went with foot levelers because again, I asked like, okay, who are we using? Everybody still recommended foot levelers. So I'll keep you updated for my elder millennials who are like, are we at that stage of life? Or maybe you're a young millennial, but you just are like, oh, are those still helpful? Because I know there's a lot of information out there about like, oh, you just need mobility in this. I don't know. I will be getting them soon in the mail. I will keep you updated. So before we jump in, let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for the blessing that you continue to give us. When we name it things like quantum leaps and conversations like today, it really can I feel like so much of the conversation around quantum leaps almost makes it feel like it's in our power and it's us doing this. And like one of the things that I constantly need to be reminded of, and hope maybe our listeners do too, is that like none of this would exist without you. And like none of this would exist without like I will show up to do the work, but you are truly the one in control. I do not have control over the outcome of this, and that I will just continue to work on becoming the best version of me and looking for opportunities and continuing to try to be a better person, even when it feels like at nauseum I am failing at it. And at nauseum, when I'm like just tearing myself down and comparing to others, God, I will continue to try and look at you, um, and to just continue to be one of your children that has endless faith in you. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, let's talk about quantum leaps. So this is like this sexy thing that we talk about. And like, oh my gosh, when I put into Chat GPT, like, hey, I'm going to be doing a thing on this. What kind of like books should I read? Like the amount of books that are being talked about of like how to manifest a quantum leap, what to all this stuff. And I don't really know if we know, like, do you know what it means? Okay, so in science terms, I had to look this up because I'm not naturally a smart person when it comes to science. Don't worry, I'm a doctor. So, this is a physics term, and a quantum leap is when an electron, you remember like when we made the electron things and they're like in a cloud, right? Okay. All right. So, an electron jumps to a higher energy state without crossing the space in between. I I don't ask for more. I don't have more for you. It's like it's in a cloud. So is it staying in its own cloud and it's leaving to a different cloud? Okay, we don't know. We don't know this, but that's not really important for this conversation, right? So in personal development, what a quantum leap is a sudden or dramatic shift in the results or the direction that looks at other people fast from the outside. Like, oh my gosh, they just quantum leaped, leapt. They quantum leapt. That does not sound right, but whatever. Um, but in personal development, when you really go into this, it's always preceded by very like deep work and uncomfortable change. Okay. So why am I talking about this? I start by saying that really since for all of 2024, and now half of 2025, I have been, I would say, preparing for a quantum leap. I didn't realize I was preparing for it. Now that I look back, like it's very evident. I was uncomfortable, like it felt kind of like aimless, like searching. It was basically going like, okay, I gotten to a certain point of success with the brand, and I wanted to look at like, okay, what is next? What is next for my clinic, my family? But like, really, I was looking at the brand. And, up until this point, I'd really been focused on chiropractors. And I was business, chiropractor, helping other chiropractors. And when I looked at what's next, I could see that like there are plenty of super successful chiropractic coaching, like the Remarkable Practice stands out, where I came from, Epic, that was like kind of my roots of my introductory coaching. Um, there are multi-million dollar companies that are in the chiropractic world like that. It wasn't like I felt I needed to break out of chiropractic, because there was plenty of road ahead of me that I could have done that, but it just didn't feel, I don't know, it just didn't feel like that's where I was being pulled, but I didn't want to go against it. It wasn't like, so that's where this was this messy prep work. I just felt like, what? what am I going to do next? Am I just going to double down on chiropractic? Do I want to triple down on chiropractic? Have I exhausted this niche? No, I haven't. But like, how am I going to expand within the niche? And then in September, and now that I've done some of the like prep work, looking at books, removing yourself and going to a new space, removing yourself from work, kind of away from the messiness or just where you're like head down, where you work is a really helpful part in kind of launching you through into a quantum leap. Kirby and I went to Cartagena, Colombia, and it was actually, it was again, just so many divine things, right? So I'm a part of UAC, which is just a really high level 8-figure like companies within chiropractors going from 7 to 8 figures, starting multiple businesses, real estate. It's a really cool group of people. I love my accountability group with them. But they were having a meetup in Miami, and it was September, and Kirby and I always like to go somewhere to celebrate our anniversary. So we're like, well, we're already going to be there for that weekend. Let's jump over to Colombia for like an extra like 4 days. Okay. So having this mastermind followed by time to integrate was incredibly beneficial for this, God, we'll call it divine download. What I get so weird about like woo-woo terms, but we're for this sake, we're gonna call it a download. Okay. So I'm in Colombia and I realize that like where I want to go next. And I started to move forward and just like where I wanted to work with healthcare providers in helping them create freedom within their clinics. So it really wasn't this full pivot because I didn't want to pivot. I loved what I was doing. I just want, like, what is chapter 5 of this? I'd gone through chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, okay, what's the next chapter here? And I wasn't looking to change huge courses. It was just an expansion. And that's really where things started to come in of like, all right, we're going to do the membership. Okay, we're going to start to pivot multi-passionate chiropreneur into uncharted CEO. These because so many of the things that we talk about in my program, the multi-passionate chiropreneur, one, they're not specific to chiropractors. Like as I started to talk to dentists and vets, like running a clinic, any healthcare provider who basically went to school, was only taught how to get that doctorate, but the expectation is that they're going to run a clinic and weren't really given leadership, profitability, spread, like any of the information on how to run a business. But then also we pair on top of that, like that we don't want to continue working at the old model of working until you're 65 in this very brick and mortar life. And I realized that there were so many more healthcare providers that were like me that love their day job, really, really love their day job, but just are looking for more avenues of wealth, more freedom, more ability to kind of flow through life in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s. It doesn't mean we want this complete pivot away from our degree. It just means we want more. And my story was exactly what I wanted to expand and help more people do. So then Kirby and I really got detailed about the membership, which started as Beyond Brick and Mortar. Fast forward, trademarked. Apparently, we didn't know that. Is now the Uncharted Collective. And, like, all right, how does that work with podcast? And how does that work with the multi-passionate chiropreneur? Like, okay, we're going to change that to Uncharted CEO. And all of these things just started laying out. And it very quickly became, we had this 10X plan. I don't know if it's really 10X, it might be like 8X or whatever. But like, okay, Kirby's skills with an Excel spreadsheet and my vision was like, okay, we see the path to $5 million a year, and what we're going to do with that and how we're going to get there became very like not easy, not easy, but like, all right, that's the path. It feels good. It feels authentic. It is absolutely where I feel like my purpose and like where I'm being called to help and lead. And I'm so passionate about talking about it. And then just like boom, 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 boom. It like we launched the membership, 110 people are in there, da 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 da. And it's like, here I am kind of spit out a couple months later. And I'm like, whoa, shit that we need to talk about. So before I jump into like the four messy middle realities of a quantum leap, I wanted to share some of the books that have helped me over the last few months. The Big Leap. Oh, shoot. I didn't write down any of the authors. I think the Big Leap is Gary Hendrickson. And so that really showed that was an interesting one, showing how we just naturally limit our own success. 10x is easier than 2x. That one is Dan Sullivan. I know that. Talking about like how getting to that next level, like 10xing, we need to drop like 80% of who we have been up until this point, 80% of what we've been doing. The gap in the gain. Oh, where are my Enneagram threes at? Yo, if you're Enneagram 3 and you have not, or a manifesting generator, and you have not read The Gap in the Gain, you have to. Like, if comparison is a thing that like really gets in your head, you need to read that. The Mountain Is You is another one. Oh, what's her name? Don't know. I don't remember. But it's a woman. And The Greatness Mindset. I think that one's Lewis House. Hayes House. I think it's House. Anyways, so those are some of the books that I have. Yeah, you guys thought I'm just like over here reading romantasy novels and not doing any work. No, I'm doing work, I promise. So let's talk about quantum leaps. So one of the biggest things that I think is talked about, but like we really don't dig into, is you don't get to bring that old version of you into the new leap. Like truly there is an identity death and a shedding process in that. The old version of you is heavy with baggage, is heavy with concerns of other people's opinions, perfectionism, the need to control. Oh, can we talk about feeling comfortable? Numbing, like that was a really big thing. I came back from Cartagena and was like, my relationship with like alcohol needs to change because like when you look, and Dan Martell has talked about this as well, of like I saw something where it was a reel, of course. We're talking about how every time that he's made a big leap in his business, his health has only gotten better. And is not it's not coincidence. It's because you start to realize that like you literally cannot perform and function at the rate that you were before. You can't deal with the same, like you can't have the negative thought patterns going because anxiety will cause a heart attack. You can't work as hard while keeping all of that same stuff. Again, it'll cause a heart attack. Like there's so many things you have to get physically and mentally fit in order to be able to run at the pace that you need to in order to like lighten yourself up to make that jump. You're also so there's a difference in your zone of genius versus your zone of excellence. So, zone of excellence is these are things you're great at. Maybe you don't love them, but you're just convinced that you do them better than everyone else. Now, I think that whether or not by definition, the zone of like, so I think zone of excellence is things you're great at but don't love. I think that anything that you're just great at, whether you love it or not, has like a flag on it that it might need to get trimmed. Because really, you have to get focused on truly actions that are going to move the needle. And what is your zone of genius? What is energizing and flowing to you, but also what is moving that needle? Okay. So, zone of excellence is different than zone of genius. You're going to have to learn how to delegate. You're going to have to learn how to hire people that you trust. The delegation process is something that I help people move through in our program, the Uncharted CEO, formerly multi-passionate chiropreneur. Like just that, because that is a skill that I am exceptional at delegating. I don't know when that happened. That was like years ago, but like I sit around our team meetings and I'm like, wow, am I even doing anything? But one of the things I know I can't bring with is, so like delegation isn't an issue for me, but the addiction to productivity. Perfectionism also is not a thing for me. If you are worried about perfectionism, you are going to feel so uncomfortable by the messy metal of a quantum leap. I think people think that, like, oh, I was here and now I'm here and over here. Everything is perfect and it's great. The leap is over the messiness. Nope, not at all. Like, you leap through the messiness and it's like quick, can be months. Like, it's a consolidation of time, but like, it's not linear, but like, it's not like you go to bed one night and wake up a different person. Like, if that's what you're thinking is going to happen, you are rudely wrong. No, I don't know what the phrase I'm looking for there is. Anyways, so for me, my addiction to productivity is really a thing. So I will fill a day with my zone of excellence. And my zone of genius will be in there, but then I'll be exhausted and I'll start to burn myself out. And it's like, no, I have to start to start to build what my ideal day is. And my ideal day, I can say on one hand, is me being super productive in 3 hours of work. Let's say that I love work. I want to work until I'm 90 years old. I want to work 3 hours a day. But like, I can say that, but like, the old version of me, she's not okay with only working 3 hours a day, because the old version of me is tied to my mom and that generation's idea of what work is. And work is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Now, never mind you that I have no problem working on a Saturday or a Sunday or at 8 p.m. or this or that. But like, still in my head, old version of me is, what are you doing if you're only working 3 hours? And also, if you're only working 3 hours, you can't fill that with everything that you're excellent at. It needs to really be those things that move the needle. Another thing that this is the icky part, is like, you start to not fit in with everyone, which is hard if in the first place, if the old version of you really loved validation and people's opinions. As you start to run at this higher speed, realizing that as a verbal processor, there are just things that not everybody understands, and you might need to be a little more selective. And that other people are dealing with their own shit. And people who you thought were friends start to display issues of envy and jealousy, and I forget why those are different, but they're different. And you just start to go like, oh, if I'm going to keep this friendship, I need to be okay with not sharing every aspect of my life. And are you okay with that, or are you not? And it's okay. There is no wrong. Like, think anybody who says, as you quantum leap, you need to shed all the people previously in your life. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. I can't personally tell you what to do. I would say that that seems wrong. Um, but it does get a little more complicated, and it does get a little more lonely if you don't, if you're not aware. It can get very, very lonely as you start to leap, because it's really a small percentage of people who choose the discomfort of leaving the past version of them behind to do this. So number two, this is shocking to me. Um, when you start to get everything you asked for, it will scare the shit out of you. Um, so this is actually a psychological thing. From the Big Leap, they talk about this as an upper limit problem. And when you start to get to that next level, the quantum leap, whatever that is for you, uh, your brain starts to self-sabotage. We start to think of things like, our brain naturally starts to think that things will start going wrong once you get to a certain level of happiness. So there's only so much happiness to go around. Um, if you and everybody's is a little different. Like, maybe you're comfortable with having two homes. Okay, maybe you have a lake home and whatever. But like, 4 homes. That's too much. And you start in your brain being like, "Oh my gosh, well then we'd have to have a property manager and like think about all the problems and like gosh, inevitably we're going to be dealing with like a hurricane or that like that's all your brain starting to be like, you can't have 4 homes and be happy." Okay? And I don't mean to talk about things like quantum leaps in just the financial aspect. This happens in families, like you find happiness. We know this, right? Like people will admit they're like nobody gets to be this happy. Bad things happen. Like, and I don't know, I think that comes to also not just an upper limit problem or a limited number of like false dichotomy. Like we think like there's only so much money to go around, there are only so much success to go around, and there's only so much happiness to go around, which are all three lies. There is unlimited resources of that. But in addition to that, I think there's an underlying control issue if we don't want to be caught off guard. We don't want to be perceived as the idiot who didn't see a problem coming. And so, what our brain does is it prepares. It prepares, like, well, somebody's going to quit. Yeah, happy now. Just wait until this. Like, and our brain, in an attempt to control, which is ridiculous because we never know when it's going to happen. Like, is it fair to say that like things are always going to shift and change? Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't mean bad. That doesn't mean good. It just means life keeps going. But if your brain is wanting to fill in the gaps with like negative to try and protect you, this is an issue. You are self-sabotaging your your view of what is possible and what you deserve because you're trying to protect from bad things happening. So you're gonna constantly need to rewire your thoughts. I think again, we think, okay, wow, I'm like functioning at this next level and all of this abundance is happening. It's scary. Okay. Like, I don't know who these superhumans are. Like, there is a small percentage of people who just like, I think they've done this enough time. So I think this will get easier. I think the faster you do quantum leaps, the more you experience it, the more you will just expect abundance to come in. Fantastic. But like, if you're not wired to just accept abundance, it is weird. It's scary. And you're constantly needing to like rewire your thoughts to coach yourself back into alignment, to remind yourself that there is an endless flow of this. I didn't realize that I even had a money problem until I started to have a lot of it and then be like, oh my God, and started to get scared by it. And like, what am I going to do with this? And so it's this idea that when you look at your day, maybe it's looking at your ideal week or your ideal day. And when you actually have a week that looks like it, do you start to fall back on old you? Okay, you said you wanted to work 3 hours a day. Well, this is the reality. Great. Are you like, because this was my actual experience a month ago where I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with myself? Like, what will I do if I'm not adjusting in my clinic 10 hours a week? What if I'm only adjusting 2 hours a week? Like, what will I do? Like, and it can be very scary. It can be very scary. You're not doing it wrong if you are recognizing these feelings, okay? Do some people flow through this messy middle faster or easier? I sure as shit assume so. Yes, I do not think that my experience is everybody's experience. But I do know that if your quantum leap doesn't feel clean and like you've absolutely severed the past version of you and you're just waking up and like everything's amazing, like you're not waking up and everything's just easy and amazing, I also don't think you're doing it wrong either. So just the constant need to be like, okay, this is good, I'm rewiring, I'm letting go, and just that constant reminder and knowing that like there's an abundance, damn it, there's an abundance. Okay, number three, kind of goes with number one, where I said like some of the relationships that you know you're really dependent on are no longer working with you, because people have their own shit. People are going through their own stuff, and they're going to feel really uncomfortable about some of the things that you're talking about or you're spending your time with, like, and that's okay. So number 3 is you're going to need to find new rooms. Um, you need to surround yourself every time you leap. Okay, so let's even say that, like, we're not talking about money here. Let's say you just keep having more children. Okay. Now, granted, yeah, you got 1 kid, cool. Maybe you have no kids. Maybe you all right, you got 2 kids, great. You have 3 kids. All right, yep, no problem. Traveling's a little different. You're traveling with, like, another family who only has 2, so, "Oh, I need 2 hotel rooms." Things start to shift. And then you have 4 kids, and now people are like, "Whoa, I don't really like going out to eat with them because they have so many kids," and you don't really like going out to eat anymore because it's just expensive and it's blah. And then you have 5 kids, and now you're talking about homeschooling, and you're starting to talk about, like, different kinds of problems because you have 5 children. And let's say you have 6 children. Like, do you understand when we frame it a different way, how, like, I'm not saying somebody with 6 children can't have a super successful and amazing relationship with somebody who has decided to have no children. I'm not saying that. But can you see that, like, it just it gets the people that are going to give you good advice, the people that you aspire to be, the people you're looking up to, and the core values that they're leading from, it just becomes narrower and narrower. It doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. It just means you need to surround yourself with people who are normalizing your vision. But there's a but here. You need to be deeply aware of comparison. So this is where the gap in the gain shows up. All right. So you're like, okay, I need to surround myself with people who are doing 8 figures because, I'm looking to get to 7 figures, multi 7 figures. Okay, so I'm gonna surround myself with 8 figures. But then you're all of a sudden you're like, whoa, they have like a whole team, and like they're doing this and they're making money on YouTube and they're doing these photo shoots and they're this and they're this and they're this and they're speaking, and whatever it is in your version of a quantum leap, whatever that person is that you're comparing to, what happens naturally is we focus on the gap, okay, the gap in the gain, where we are to where we want to get to. And that gap feels often bad. Okay. Like, the gap can show you the path. And like, this is why it's really important. This is why nobody is going to be like, yeah, you know what you should do? Hang out in a room with, like, people, the version of you 5 years ago, like people who are at the level of success, the level of relationships, your level of spirituality 5 years ago, because you're going to feel so good. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, I know so much more than you. That you are never going to read that as advice, right? So it's always focusing on the gain of, like, how far you've come. So we just need to be aware that as we continue to thrive, to evaluate our own core values, because that's another thing that can change as you start to, or maybe your core values never change, but the distraction around them absolutely can. And this is, again, why you need to make sure that you are being super selective of who you surround yourself with. I'll give you an example for personally with me, and don't judge me for this. Okay, people, don't be a dick. So family and freedom are 2 core values that always stay number 1. Um, I've never, at least in the last however many years, 8 years, 6 years, there was a time period where success allowed my relationship with Kirby, like that, like success and validation and like significance, like snuck in above that. And that's where, when I talk about Kirby and I getting therapy in the past, it was to realize that, like, I needed slash he needed to build a foundation where our marriage would never accidentally fall on the core value list. Like, if anything, Kirby and I talk about how like we are married before we are parents. Like we tell our kids, like, listen, I love you. And being a parent to you is one of the greatest joys ever. But you're going to leave and you're going to go on to live this big, beautiful life of your own. And it's going to be me and him. Like he and I are going to be the one going on adventures when we're empty nesters. He and I are the one that are building the vision. That's like, we needed to do that work. And that was a previous quantum leap that needed to happen. And I'm grateful for it in all of its messy nastiness. Um, but so my family, my relationship with my children and my relationship with my husband, um, and the constant journey towards freedom always stay number one. But an F that tends to fall below another F, finances, tends to like squeak in above God-given abilities, faith, my spiritual focus. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm aware of it. And so it's one of those things where at this next level, it's really easy when dollars start getting thrown at you to be focused on making more dollars. Okay. Like you're like, all right, I want to have an impact. And the value or the vision that causes the leap can accidentally not get lost, but like become less of like the thing that you're focusing on. Okay. Less focus. So I can start from the quantum leap last September going, I want to have like, yes, I can have an impact with just chiropractors in growing their clinics, but I don't think that's the only thing I want to do. I think I want to help them create more freedom. Boom. Great. Fell into alignment. And you can tell that because like, everything just went boom, 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 boom. When you're in alignment, things start to happen faster. But then all of a sudden, again, money starts coming at you because you're in alignment. And when you are delivering something that you're truly here to do, people receive it well and they're willing to give you like money for that value. So then it can, in my experience, one of the things that I have to protect against is it can just easily become about the finances and not about what God is calling me to do, not about the impact. And so again, kind of to number two of like, you have to continue to revisit like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. It's okay. You didn't magically become like a different person. You let go of this, but like you continually have to focus on it. All right. The fourth and final one is, and this is the one that I was sending my friend Steph a message about of like, holy shit moves faster at the next level. They talk a lot about, so like where you've probably heard this is like, condensing time and non-linear timelines. And it sounds so cool when you're reading about it. Like 10x is easier than 2x. And you're like, collapse time, quantum leaps, time doesn't exist. And you're like, yeah, shit moves so fast when you are like, when you jump, it's just going. And like you just get dropped in. You get dropped in to, you were going 100 miles an hour and now you're dropped in going 500 miles an hour. And in order to stay at that level, you need to keep moving. Now you can see where if you were holding on to the previous you would start to burn out. And this is why it's so essential. Like the first thing I said is to drop it because things are going to move faster. Opportunities are going to come faster. You're going to need to say yes, no, learn to trust your gut faster, like take action faster. So your decisions will happen. Income, money's going to be coming into your life faster, but so is expenses. Money's going to be flowing out, hopefully in a good way if you've created this plan. Your visibility, those opportunities. It's not just having more, it's needing to think clearer, faster. If you're somebody who needs to like stew on a decision, you're going to need to figure out how to move through your own decision-making process authentically faster. You just can. I mean, this week alone, we have invested $70,000. Let me think. 35, 40, what is that? Yeah, $75,000 um, because they were the necessary steps to generating an additional $500,000. And when you talk about it, like when people talk again, this is that messy middle where like you're not alone if you have experienced quantum leaps where you're like, "Oh, this is this how it's supposed to feel? Am I doing this wrong?" Because if I told you, "Hey, every time you give me $70,000, I promise you, you will be making an additional $500,000 within 9 months." How many times would you place that bet? Probably every single time. That's what you would say, right? Like that's what you would tell me. But in reality, it's scary. Now, you may be looking at different numbers. So, like maybe for you, it's worrying about investing $10,000 to make another 100,000, and you're just like dragging your feet and you're this, you're that. Maybe you're at the next level where you're like, oh, 70,000 I'm having to look at investing 500,000 to make another 3 million. Whatever it is, the numbers continue to get like you still are exposed to the fear. Like one of the number one threads, in addition to like, you cannot stay the same version of you. You physically cannot stay in the same version of you. You mentally cannot stay the same version of you. That's the number one thread I saw. Number two was that you have to be able to move even though you're scared. You have to move faster, think faster, do it when you're scared. Do it with less information, pivot quicker, learn from your failures. Don't even call it a failure. Like it's all this stuff. And it's so easy to read. It's so easy to read. It's so easy to hear on a podcast. But like when you're living it, it can be scary. And so what we want to do is we want to be aware that like this is what it can feel like. Again, I don't know. This is my personal experience of going like, all right, I'm going to take a brand from 500,000 a year to 5 million a year. Like, and what kind of things start happening quickly and what kind of emails you're sending and what kind of visibility you start getting and the rooms you start being in and the opportunities that are flowing. Like, this is just my experience. And I don't know if it's right. I know it's not wrong. I feel in my gut that this messy process is what a lot of entrepreneurs go through, but not a lot of entrepreneurs share. So I'm just working on, again, I'm continually working on like what kind of daily processes am I doing to make sure I'm reminded? I know that faith and impact take a second seat to finances too easily. So what am I doing on a daily basis to prioritize that? What am I doing on a daily basis to prioritize my physical fitness? What am I doing on a daily basis to limit my propensity towards a heart attack because I am a little high strung? What am I doing on a daily basis to balance my hormones? What am I doing to show up better, quality, not quantity? And looking at this is like, this means you're doing it right. Okay. This means the rituals and the systems that you need to come back to your why. You're not doing it wrong if you find yourself off course for a minute, like in this. It's messy and we love it this way. So, this is all right. I did not keep it to a half hour, but we did okay. So, if you find yourself in a messy middle, I want you to not like my takeaway from today is I want you to know that I don't think you're doing it wrong. I think that my superpower is sharing the vulnerability in every messy process. And I think that most leaders and people we look up to, mentors, suck at sharing about the messy middle. Most people don't like sharing their vulnerability. Most people like preaching from the mountaintop and I don't know, it's like they think that if they show any sense of weakness or confusion, um, or uncertainty that people are not going to trust them and give them money and this or that. And like, I just think that's bullshit. I don't know. That's never how I'll be. I'm always going to share that. So for those that resonate with that, send me a DM. Um, I love that you are going through your quantum leap and not falling backwards, even though it feels messy. For those that are so desperately like wanting a quantum leap, I would say that from my researching, you can't force a quantum leap because Father, Son, Holy Spirit, dear God, we can't control this shit. And your opportunities, we don't know them. I believe in divine timing. So I think that sometimes you just need to stew like a good Italian marinara sauce or bolognese. Like, I'm sorry, but like you sometimes you just can't rush this shit. And as long as you are focusing on, okay, am I focusing on releasing baggage? Release baggage, open up space for this to happen. Remove yourself from your day to day. Go spend a weekend by yourself. It's going to happen. Okay. And it's okay if it's not like a light bulb goes off where you're like, oh my gosh, I just experienced a quantum leap. Like, I look back and everything, like hindsight, like, right. I look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, September when I was in Cartagena, like, downloads just happening. But like in the moment, it wasn't like I was levitating or a light bulb went off. So like it's okay. Just keep moving forward and just enjoy this roller coaster. It is thrilling. If you are seeking some kind of momentum, reach out to me. I would love to be a mentor for you and help you finding what that next step is and just be your cheerleader. So I hope that this resonated. Be on the lookout for some major things coming up. Like, one, we are going to be, we've got the workshop June 16th and 18th, the Uncharted Collective. That is that membership. If you are looking to start building things online, after the workshop, I am toying with the idea of just allowing it to stay open so you can join at any time. People who go to the workshop will get a discounted opportunity though. So if you are looking to join a group of over 110 healthcare practitioners who love what they do, but are looking to seek more freedom and more revenue streams online, join us there. If you are a clinic owner, be on the lookout for a completely revamped and rebranded multi-passionate chiropreneur coming in July, end of July. Um, in the past, we are actually going to be lowering the price, allowing it to be a little more of a go at your own pace program. And we are really dialing in what what does this program do differently? I have two amazing best friends in the chiropractic world, and they have quarterly programs. And I've gotten to witness a lot of what their programs offer, and I love that. And I don't want to try and be everything to everyone. Like, this program is for a couple, whether you are Cairo and Cairo or Cairo and non Cairo. This is about your marriage and your relationship first and building this life with your best friend. This is not like, are we going to talk about business in it? Absolutely. We are going to talk about profitability. You're going to get a whole analysis of your clinic and where you're standing, but not at the expense of your marriage, not at the expense of your personal health and all of that. So be on the lookout for the rebranded Uncharted CEO coming in July. I don't have a link for you. Just, you guys listening to the podcast, you are in the know. You will be able to go like, wait, what is the Uncharted CEO? Oh, it's the new multi-passionate chiropreneur. So make sure you are on our email list. So you make sure we don't go to your spam. So you are getting all of these updates in real time. Thank you so much for I think we passed our 6-year anniversary last week. I'm so bad with anniversaries. Not my marriage anniversary, mostly because I use it as an excuse to take trips. But like, yeah, I think we've been doing this 6 years, and I am so thankful for each one of you that continues to listen and show up with me online. I literally couldn't do it without you. So until next week, She Slayers. Bye.